LiberalViewer presents.
So the Republicans running for president have been responsible for a lot of dumb statements, and Michele Bachmann's been responsible for more than her share, but I'm not sure I've seen such a shallow analysis of such an important issue as I saw when Michele Bachmann took on the issue of the American use of torture in a recent CBS debate you can see in this clip.
If I were president, I would be willing to use waterboarding. I think it was very effective. It gained information for our country. And I also would like to say that today, under Barack Obama, he is allowing the ACLU to run the CIA.
Now, having been a member of the American Civil Liberties Union for almost 30 years, I know a lot of things the CIA's been doing, even under President Obama, violate important civil liberties principles, starting with never seeking accountability for American torture, which the ACLU was quick to point out in a blog post titled, ACLU If We Ran the CIA, which you can find at bit.ly/ACLUCIA. But Michele Bachmann's misinformation about American national security didn't stop with the ACLU running the CIA, as you can see in the continuation of her debate answer here.
You need to understand that today, when we interdict a terrorist on the battlefield, we have no jail for them. We have nowhere to take them. We have no CIA interrogation anymore. It is as though we have decided we want to lose in the war on terror under President Obama. That's not my strategy. My strategy will be that the United States will be victorious in the war on terror.
Oh, her strategy is to be victorious. That's so much smarter than having a strategy to lose. But saying President Obama wants to lose the war on terrorism has real factual problems, and fortunately, the day after the debate, Michele Bachmann was held to account on that answer when interviewed by an actual journalist, David Gregory, on NBC's Meet the Press, who you can see pointing out some contradicting facts to her in this clip.
You went on to say the following here about the president's foreign policy watch.
Today, under Barack Obama, he is allowing the ACLU to run the CIA. It is as though we have decided we want to lose in the war on terror under President Obama. That's not my strategy.
That the president almost wanted to lose the war on terror. Did you feel that way after he killed Osama bin Laden, ordering that raid? Did you feel that way after he ordered more drone attacks on terrorists in Pakistan than the previous administration?
After watching all the Fox News I watch, it's refreshing to see someone willing to challenge Republican talking points with a little dose of reality. And when Michele Bachmann tried to back up her right-wing fantasy with her bogus argument about the CIA having no place to detain people, David Gregory again challenged her with the facts you can see here.
We are conducting a war on terror, but when we have no jail for terrorists. So what this means is either we kill them or we release them.
But that's not true,
We also have no ability.
We have Guantanamo Bay. We have some secret prisons that have remained open. That's simply been looked at and found to be not true. They have, and there are other ways that they can actually be held for some smaller period of time on ships, on Navy ships in the region as well.
Now that's a journalistic interview, using the facts to challenge a politician's bogus claims, and it stands in stark contrast to the interview of Michele Bachmann I saw the following day over on Fox News from supposed straight news anchor Martha MacCallum, who showed the same clip of Bachmann at the CBS debate, but instead of challenging her facts like the journalist at NBC, just challenged her with another opinion, the opinion of President Obama in this clip.
Let's start by playing President Obama reacted to the discussion about waterboarding on Saturday night. Let's play that tape for you, and I want to get your thoughts on that, if I may.
Let me just say this, they're wrong. Waterboarding is torture. It's contrary to America's traditions. It's contrary to our ideals. That's not who we are. That's not how we operate.
So what do you think, Congresswoman Bachmann?
So what do you think, Congresswoman Bachmann? A pretty softball question compared to what was on NBC's Meet the Press, especially given that Obama's argument there was cut off in the middle, as I'll show in a minute, but the real bias in the supposedly straight news interview was the lack of challenge of the false facts and arguments Michele Bachmann made, starting with an argument about the necessity of the atomic bombing of Japan that you can see me refute in my video from a few years back titled Hiroshima Right or Wrong, showing that bombing was just as immoral and unnecessary as torture, but that didn't stop Bachmann from making the argument you can see here.
I think the president is clearly wrong, and I would go back to President Harry Truman, who had to make the horrific decision about dropping an atomic bomb on Japan to end the World War II. He said if he had to kill Japanese in order to save one American life, he would. And if as President of the United States, I believed that we would be able to save 3,000 American lives and stop aircraft from flying into the Twin Towers, I would utilize waterboarding if it would save those American lives.
Now, if the Fox News anchor were a real journalist, she might have challenged Bachmann's assertion that torture saves lives using information like the facts I presented in my video from last May, Dick Cheney Lies About Torture Working, but of course this supposedly straight news interview of Michele Bachmann challenged none of her false facts and arguments, instead just changing the subject to the polls, as you can see at the end of Bachmann's answer here.
Sometimes decisions have to be made, but again, I think it's important for people to know no one dies from the use of waterboarding. Is it uncomfortable? Yes, it's uncomfortable, but our worry should not be about the comfort level of a terrorist. What the President of the United States needs to do is secure the safety of the American people.
So, let's take a look at how things are going in the polls.
Let's take a look at how things are going in the polls? That's the only response from the supposed straight news anchor over on Fox when a Republican running for president asserts without facts that torture saves lives and doesn't kill anyone, even though there's not only no evidence that torture works, but there's also evidence that U.S. torture incidents have been top recruiting tools for America's enemies, and the arguments that torture is unnecessary and hurts America's ability to set an example were exactly what Fox News cut out of President Obama's reaction to the Republican candidates who supported torture, as you can see by watching that full reaction here.
They're wrong. Waterboarding is torture. It's contrary to America's traditions. It's contrary to our ideals. That's not who we are. That's not how we operate. We don't need it in order to prosecute the war on terrorism. And we did the right thing by ending that practice. If we want to lead around the world, part of our leadership is setting a good example. And anybody who has actually read about and understands the practice of waterboarding would say that that is torture. And that's not something we do. Period.
And that's a much better answer on torture and waterboarding specifically, even if President Obama's CIA isn't run according to ACLU principles, and it's sad that a supposedly serious Republican candidate for president can't tell the difference or see the facts about waterboarding as torture. At least that's what I think, but I want to know what you think. Do you agree with President Obama and the ACLU, but not Michele Bachmann and most Republicans running for president, that waterboarding is torture that's ineffective, un-American, and should not be used? And if you do you agree with the ACLU, but apparently not President Obama and his CIA, that Americans who engaged in torture should be held legally accountable?
YouTube, you decide.